The recently elected FBI director just got exposed for owning hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of Bitcoin and Bitcoin companies. But not only that, Trump is appointing a Bitcoin podcaster to help with all of the direction of the FBI. But before we dive into the massive influence that me and all these other Bitcoin podcasters have, let's dive into the recently appointed Patel and how he is exposed for holding Bitcoin and Bitcoin-like companies. He holds a massive amount of Core Scientific, one of the largest Bitcoin miners. He also holds Rumble, a company that has Bitcoin on the balance sheet, a competitor to YouTube. Excuse me. And then he also holds nearly $100,000 worth of Grayscale's Trust ETF, as well as the ETF down here. So he holds nearly 6 figures worth of the Bitcoin spot ETF. But I think the interesting aspect of this entire story is that Trump's new FBI director, although he is a Bitcoiner, it did not come up in any of the confirmation hearings as a big concern. So what does that mean for the overall and these 3-letter agencies? Does it mean that Bitcoiners are slowly going to start to infiltrate these 3-letter agencies? Before, it was a rumor that Satoshi was one of these, a part of one of these 3-letter agencies, but now it seems like all of them are starting to hold Bitcoin in some way, shape, or form. So this groundbreaking news is that and on top of it, we have Trump naming a Bitcoin podcaster as the FBI director here, as Dan Bongino. I don't know if I said that any way, shape, or form correctly, but so my apologies in advance if I'm butchering his name. But I think it's interesting that we're seeing all of these with ideas that the Bitcoin space has had for quite some time, all starting to have positions of power. Even Patel recently in an interview saying this.
I think we got to educate people that the Federal Reserve is not a public government entity. It's a private entity owned by the robber barons that started this country, who manipulate the currency to their advantage. And that needs to be tackled. Again, I'm not the economic guru. I just know it's a problem. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the solution is, but it needs to be addressed.
He's straight up calling out the Fed as a private entity that is robbing people blind of inflation. And he's the FBI director that openly looks at conspiracies, openly looks at all of these different types of people that could potentially be harming the public. Is the FBI going to target the Fed sometime soon? I'm not 100% sure, but this little snippet from an article from an interview, is quite telling of Cash's viewpoints. Now, his newly confirmed FBI director holds over 6 figures worth of Bitcoin, and he's the director of FBI. The Senate confirmed him on Thursday, just barely, with a 51-49 vote, delivering a major win for Trump, who has spent years clashing with the FBI. So every Senate Democrat voted against Cash. Even Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska both opposed his nomination, but his political profile undermines his ability to serve an apolitical role of director of FBI. But it wasn't enough to stop Cash himself from cashing in and becoming that FBI director. So I think that this is extremely important, because I think it shows and highlights the shift in policy and policymakers in the United States, where they're not necessarily looked at as, hey, this just because they're a Republican. In these apolitical positions, such as the FBI director, they're all holding Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoiners love meeting Bitcoiners in person, and we'll get to other places we could do that in a second. But I think part of the reason why Bitcoiners love meeting other Bitcoiners in person is because they can kind of relate, have the same ideologies, right? They don't have to worry about somebody in the Bitcoin space potentially trying to screw them over in some way, shape, or form. So are we getting to a point where we could potentially start to trust some of these Bitcoiners in high up positions? Because we have now podcasters getting into these positions, right? I mean, how crazy would it be if you guys saw me walking across this stage being named the FBI director? I think for me, it would be pretty wild, to say the very least. But it seems like Bitcoiners and Bitcoin podcasters are taking over. He appointed a podcaster and commentator, Dan Bongino, as director or deputy director of the FBI. He's worked for New York Police Department, so he does have experience in there. So he's not simply just a podcaster, but they're using that to simply undermine his qualifications, it seems here. Simply undermine what he is doing. But I think it is funny that in his most recent, he became a Bitcoin podcaster. And as my man, friend of the program, Pierre Richard, is saying here in this meme, is that the government will ban Bitcoin. In reality, Bitcoin podcasters will take over the government. And even more memes have been shared about this, where Bitcoiners had decided long ago to invest in heavily retarded podcasters who hate the government. Many people criticized this strategy and said it made no sense. However, the government is now run by retarded podcasters who hate the government. So I think it's absolutely hilarious. We're starting to see a lot of these Bitcoin podcasters start to take over, but I don't think that undermines anything in the government. I think that we all share this similar ideology. Where Bitcoin and where government clash is that government and people, in a sense, have been corrupted, right? So we haven't been able to trust governmental officials. We know we've been getting lied to constantly, night in and night out, every time we see political figures get up in front of us and try to tout something, try to tell us the truth about something, exposing something. But in reality, we all know that they haven't had similar ideologies as us. Now, we see all these different podcasters and Bitcoiners alike into these political realms, right? They hold between 50,000 and 100,000 worth of grayscale ETFs. Patel's stake in Core Scientific runs through the same, and his holdings were not raised as a big concern during his confirmation hearing, which I think is absolutely huge here, because they highlighted his business dealings with crypto could be advantageous as the FBI pursues action against North Korean cyber criminals. So I think it's interesting timing. He just got elected into this position, especially with what we just saw happen. Now, with his experience in Bitcoin, it's going to be interesting when we see all of these crazy rugs going on as well, right? We've seen the Hawk Tua coin. We've seen Libra token. We've seen a lot of these rugs here recently. And so just connecting a few dots, these ruggers might have to watch out here in the near future, because we've got Cash on our side, right? Cash Patel, the man with the plan. And so they even think about that as well, saying that could give him insights on how best to investigate crypto-related crimes, particularly arising in North Korean hackers who target crypto companies globally, and which the FBI plays a role in investigating and prosecuting alongside other agencies. He's also the director of Trump Media and Trump Media Technology Group. Now, I don't know if you guys remember this. I did a video about it maybe last week about Trump and his media company filing for Bitcoin and Bitcoin spot ETFs. So Trump and Cash have been very closely connected for quite some time. So I think that it is essential that we're connecting a few dots here. We're looking at what could potentially go on. We see Patel having $800,000 worth of stock in this TruthFi company, a platform offering Bitcoin and all other cryptocurrencies. So Patel has said that he will terminate his position at Trump Media and Media Technology when he assumes the FBI director's role, and there will be no amounts due for past or future services. So we got Cash really getting in and being a full-fledged Bitcoiner. The one disadvantage of what Cash holds is it seems like he's got all of these ETF products. He doesn't own the physical product of Bitcoin. Now, I always tell people that owning the physical asset of Bitcoin, being able to hold your own private keys, that is the true power of Bitcoin. Not trusting any of these third parties or any counterparty risk, taking on any of that. That's why I've partnered with my friends over at the Bitcoin Well. You can go to the bitcoinwell.com. That's just bitcoinwell.com/green candle. You could sign up right here by entering your email. There's my email if you guys want to shoot me one. You can go enter your email, join me, get some tokens for the wishing well, and potentially win 1 million sats. But if you got a lot of cheddar sitting on the sidelines, I highly, highly recommend going to their OTC desk. They're the best in the business. They will walk you through these 50 grand or more purchases, and they will make sure that you have everything safe and secure and you get your Bitcoin. Because I know we are all looking at the world crashing here. We're all looking at Bitcoin pitfall into $86,000. The whole world is over. What are we doing here, folks? Why am I even making these videos for you when we've got Bitcoin crashing? But as Bitcoin podcasters love to say, Bitcoin's on sale here, folks. So I highly, highly recommend giving this another look, especially with everything going on here. And as I say here, we've got breaking news. This Bitcoin podcaster here, BKeys1010. I don't know who this guy is, but he's saying that Bitcoin is currently on sale, and I tend to agree with him here at Green Candle. I don't know who that good-looking chap is there. But with all that being said, I think Cash and the FBI directors and everybody alike, all these government officials, they are really looking at what is going on here, right? They're looking at the crypto industry as a whole as very bullish here going forward. They're looking at all of these different indices, all of these three-letter indices, the FBI, the CIA, and everything else are going to take a closer look at Bitcoin. Now, why are they going to take a closer look? It's simply because they are looking at the writing on the wall. They've got Trump coming in, creating these meme tokens. They got everybody and their mother creating a meme token these days. Stay away from the meme tokens, folks. Stay away from it. But on the flip side of things, I think that the FBI director and these leaders that are getting appointed and that Trump are appointing all have similar ideologies. We've got RFK now in charge of the health department. We've got Trump, who's a Bitcoiner. We've got Barron. We've got Eric Trump even tweeting about Bitcoin, saying, buy the dip. Let me pull up that tweet here too, if you don't believe me, because he's been tweeting about it. And so a lot of people close to Donald Trump and in high positions of power are tweeting and clamoring from the skies, hey, buy Bitcoin. Look at what's going on here, right? So if we go to Eric Trump's page, you could even see that as this is loading here, he's saying, buy the dip. Look at this with the Bitcoin B, buy the dips. So everybody in these positions of power in the political sphere in the United States is extremely bullish on Bitcoin. And I think that's just going to continue here, right? He's the executive vice president of the Trump organization. Obviously, he's got the last name. He's keeping everybody around and keeping them all into Bitcoin and keeping them actively looking at this space as a big positive, right? Because we've got a lot of people with influence now in the White House, where before, Trump, obviously a lot of people, remember The Apprentice, you're fired, all these different kinds of things. But I think it's interesting that he's got Trump, Elon, some of the most powerful people are not just powerful because of their money, right? It's because of their influence and what they have here. So I think this story is absolutely groundbreaking, and I think more and more Bitcoiners are going to be hired in positions of power, and more Bitcoiners want to meet other Bitcoiners in person. And the next place I'm going to be, I'm jumping all around the world, but I'll be at BitBlock Boom. So if you go to bitblockboom.com, you can buy your tickets. Use code Green Candle and get 10% off. They've got a great golf tournament, and they've got a lot of great speakers and other places like that. The ticket price will increase at the end of Friday, so you better hurry up and buy those tickets ASAP. so you can come and see me down in Dallas. We could hit that D-Town boogie. We can dance it up with other like-minded Bitcoiners and enjoy the great times that we have in this Bitcoin space. Because if I were to tell you when you got into Bitcoin, I don't know when you guys got Bitcoin. I started doing research on Bitcoin 2016, 2017. If you were to tell me 9 years later that Bitcoin would be talked about in presidential elections, we'd have the FBI directors getting exposed for holding massive amounts of Bitcoin, I would have told you you're absolutely crazy. And on top of that, if you were to tell me 3 years ago when I started this podcast and this YouTube that I could potentially be the next FBI director or deputy or something along those lines because Bitcoin podcasters are now getting hired, it's absolutely crazy. But the world is changing and shifting at a rapid moment, and we're seeing Bitcoin absolutely take off in adoption, although we aren't seeing it in the price action. So I think everybody is getting a little tentative with Bitcoin. They're looking at it and they're forgetting the 6 months run that we've been on, and they're looking the short term. Oh, Bitcoin is absolutely pitfalling. Why is it doing that? Well, there's a bunch of different factors here. Obviously, we've got a few. I think that there's some things going on behind the scenes as well. Yesterday, I did a live stream and I was talking a little bit about how people are flocking into buying physical gold. We've got Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan selling off $233 million worth of JP Morgan stock. And the China M1 money supply and the VIX absolutely skyrocketing. So I think all of those factors here are a reason why we're potentially seeing this dip. And it's all kind of coming through pretty quickly here because Bitcoin's the most liquid market that there absolutely is, right? So I think at the end of the day, people try to get out of the most liquid and market whatever they can get quickest if they some sort of dip and try to something a little bit more safe now. And I think that is what Bitcoin is essentially seeing. We're seeing a lot of the weak hands getting shaken out here. A lot of people were FOMOing in last quarter and have seen it just down. So weak hands are getting in, but that doesn't mean that I'm still cranking out the content for you guys. After we're done here, why don't you guys go over to my podcast or my YouTube channel? I just dropped this great podcast with Andy from Crowd Health. He's absolutely amazing. He's a sponsor of the show, has done some great stuff, and has really helped this space grow and prosper. So why don't you guys go on and check that out? But before you do, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend, and I will see you guys all at the next one. Oh my gosh. It's not letting me end the stream. Well, I'm not sure. You guys might be sticking with me here for a little bit because it doesn't look like the stream is allowing me to end it here. So let's see if we can actually do that.